probably has a plan. I feel like even a bit lower level players, they still have a plan for the resources they mine. What the plan is or how good it is a different question then.
Go, go, go! My life forever!
Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 for a special episode of Angry Coach. I decided to bring in one of the arguable experts, one of the greatest StarCraft players of all time, who recently defeated Maru in the IEM Katowice Championships, and more relevantly and more recently defeated Winter in the Rank Roulette Championships. Thank you for joining us, Serral.
Thanks for having me.
Today, we're going to be looking at all sorts of replays from Bronze all the way up through the top of Grandmaster. And myself and Serral will be giving our arguable expert opinions on how some of these players can improve. Do you remember your first ladder games ever in StarCraft 2? Like what league, what strategy, stuff like that?
Yeah, I actually do remember pretty well. I actually, when I played my first 5 placement matches, I used random as my race, and I remember liking the Protoss soundtrack a lot, and forgetting a bunch, but to be honest, that's all I remember. I don't remember what I did with the other races, but I have always been on the higher rank, so I don't really know how the lowest of the lows looks like.
So you started out, is this in Wings of Liberty?
Yeah,
On?
straight from the beta.
You were 4-gating as random in the beta.
Correct. Well, maybe it's a 3-gate. I don't remember if 4-gate wasn't built, but at the very start, like the first days. But it was like a gateway all in on one base. That's what I was doing.
Well, that is, I think a lot of people started there. Not many people have made it past that point overall. When did you decide to switch to Zerg, actually? When did that? Were you already really good, or what point?
Really early on. Probably 2 weeks in my StarCraft experiences already. So
two weeks?
Basically from the start.
You had, I thought you were like playing random for a year or two, and then you just eventually decided.
No, choose to play some matches.
And you've been playing Zerg pretty much as a main ever since?
Yeah.
Well, that means you're not going to be as qualified for this first match. We're looking at Tarkus, who is, he explicitly played his first ladder match for this, as I put it out there like, who would like to get coached by Serral, such as it is. And I was looking for all sorts of leagues. So Tarkus, who's apparently watched and played campaign in co-op for many years, he claims this is his very first placement match. So, I'm just on Tarkus's perspective, and we'll take a look. And I believe his opponent is a Bronze League Protoss. But are there any things you think Terran players of any level continually make mistakes on, or like they don't do very well, in your opinion?
Well, I think it's the same for all races, the mistake. It's mainly just the macro mistakes, like supply depots and that kind of stuff. Forgetting that kind of stuff for the most part, and poor macro in general, I guess. But
More supply
I don't really know what the special Terra mistakes would be. I'm imagining there's gonna be a lot of poor micro moments, especially if we get some sort of bio balls against Bailings or something. Probably not gonna be much micro there, but in general, it's macro. Macro is what takes you pretty far.
Your SCVs will be DED. It's a cannon rush. So thoughts on cannon rush in current year?
Not that great, but I'm not liking the CC first response here from Tarkus. It's a bit unnecessary. But besides that, it's actually a pretty solid build order still, so he has for sure seen some games. But this wasn't the right time to use this CC first.
I do like the probe comes in, and then he slaps down the command center as the probe just casually builds a pylon. He does kill the first probe. So, now it's gotten serious. Okay.
Yeah, maybe a little bit unnecessary there with the worker pull, since this kind of rush isn't threatening that much. That you don't really have to respect it too much, actually. But see how this turns out. Just need to get some Marines out here.
At what point do you consider just floating your main to another base?
Well, when it's under attack, but we are far from that point, especially with these cannons not being safe. You can just kill them.
It's a pretty intense start. It's one of those long-term cannon rushes by a Protoss who I think the strategy is cannon rush, and if that doesn't work, cannon rush from further away. But gets the Marine out. SCV's, this is like, it feels like he knows what he's supposed to do, but he's just not quite perfect at it when it comes to responding to the cannons.
Yeah, not quite perfect, but he's getting rid of the cannons.
Oh my god, wow. That was actually some legitimately, that was exactly how many SCVs and Marines he needed.
Yeah, well, Pros might have over microed there with the target fire and not killed one of the Marines, but let's let that slip for this time. I think Tarkus just would have kinda needed to get those gases a little bit faster though, just to get some tanks out. I remember when I used to off-race a lot with the old Cyclone and I got cannon rush that I always made a Cyclone, but maybe that's not that good of a decision nowadays anymore. But a tank would be pretty nice always.
Well, heading on just the fact he didn't immediately panic, I think already puts him much higher up in like terms of potential. A lot of players will decide the cannon rush is the most important thing in the world and pull every worker to deal with it, and then just leave the game when it doesn't work out. But Tarkus, with an almost like casual response to this so far, and now he's just doing his like Stim Marine Marauder build. Orbital's a little late.
Yeah, there's for sure micro mistakes there. He's floating a lot and that stuff, but for the most part he didn't panic too much, and that's a good thing. He could have even panicked or reacted less than he actually did here, since the cannon rush was so... He didn't really pressure anything, it just forced to cancel the natural CC pretty much.
Upgraded, but at what cost?
Oh, well, sell it. Which means he... Quick cancel.
Wait, I have your the announcer pack now on.
What was that?
I have your announcer pack on.
Oh, that is the announcer pack from our dear Terran player here. Are you saying you don't use my announcer pack, so? Which announcer pack do you prefer?
Confused.
Do you have any preference?
I use the Avatar usually, but I think nowadays I just use the standard one because tournaments give you accounts always, so you kind of have vanilla accounts and you don't have any you can't have any special announcers there, so I just try to get used to the standard one. But I think my main account actually has the Avatar one still.
That's pretty fitting, I think. All about efficiency. I do like, I also prefer the caster park, the Korean caster one, because at some point I don't like being yelled at in English about being supply blocked anymore, because I already know what problems I have. But, and at least it sounds exciting.
Yeah, well, I haven't heard that one, but I can imagine the Korean package being pretty loud.
Indeed. Alright, okay, so what do you think about the Ghost Academy follow-up to the triple bunker defense?
I don't like it. I would have rather seen a tank or something here, or just medivacs and steam pack, but in general it's still a good position here for him. He's still not just panicking about the cannons too much and playing it slow as you should, and even lifting the base there, which is a good move. It's a bit unnecessary, but I feel like it's always a little bit risky to go there, because then the base is really very vulnerable and you're probably not gonna move it back to your natural, so you're probably been better off just cleaning this position up and just oversaturating the main base first.
You must construct additional...
Yeah, the Protoss right now averaging 150 APM, which is an impressive... Well, somebody has watched a lot of casts where they've commented on how good EMP is against shields, but possibly not exactly interpreted Wait, is that supply depot still? Yep, there's still a supply depot on the low ground. He's got a tank. This feels like one of the most book-smart Terrans that I've seen, especially their first games. Like, he knows what he's supposed to do and all the good units. We're just taking our time getting there.
Base under attack. Time to lift the
Wow.
Yeah, well, he has time, so there's no need to rush.
Oh my god. A classic tactic. He's walled off his own siege tank, which is, that's a pro
that
gamer
happens
move
the
right
best.
there.
That's exactly what it is. It happens quite often, but it's unfortunate in this case. You kind of like lead the cannon.
I was gonna ask. I always like to put it up for a poll when we're doing it live. How does he unblock the siege tank? I've seen so many different options between like killing your own tech lab, getting a medevac, sometimes lifting the barracks, which I think that was a pretty ingenious response right there. Just switching it over. I'm impressed by Tarkus, considering it. From what I can tell, at least on this account, this is his first ladder game, at least in Legacy of the Void. So he's clearly absorbed a lot.
You can tell he's not a complete newbie for sure. He has ideas, but obviously there's still a lot to improve on.
I like the DT defense turret. What's also interesting about your more creative level players is how they lay out their base. Now I know this was not what he was planning on as the game started, but you get some very particular base layouts in the lower leagues. Not really any tips there, but
well, I think for the most part it's pretty random, isn't it? They just plop the buildings wherever they want.
I think the supply depots are anything but.
under attack.
Putting them in an order and putting them in a line and stuff, like it's factorial.
Yeah, the first three, but look at the ones behind the mineral line. That's more like...
That's more what we're used to. The TPM, the turrets per minute, starting up. So, what do you think? Do you move the command center back to like your natural or your third at this point?
No, I don't think so, and that's exactly why I think just oversaturating the main and taking the natural a bit later would have been a nicer play, just because now it's in an awkward location. I actually think, well, I don't think you probably shouldn't even move it from there. In general, he should just make units, right? And get the steam pack upgrade. That's one of the upgrades he
but if you get
learned from while he's watching.
If you get stim pack, then you're only hurting your own units, though.
Add-on complete.
So, all right. So, and he's already making another pro gamer move, which is for getting combat shield.
Well, I don't think he knows Deglabs can make upgrades. He probably thinks it's just for the Marauder
Add-on is good.
tech choice.
You're not giving him a lot of credit here. I think he does. I think we're so far off track here that a lot of this stuff. This is what players who have a lot of like potential. This is the kind of thing that you'd remember combat shield and stim. You play 10 more games in a row, and you're gonna remember it. But like on your first game of the day, let alone first game ever, you might not. Now that is something I actually wanted to ask you. Now, just generally, how many games do you think you play a day on average?
Well, it depends. If
Of
I'm
course it
preparing
depends.
for something, or if I'm preparing for something, or if I'm just doing a trying to maintain my level at somewhere. But I think you can. Sometimes I just do like 10 games a day, sometimes even less. But if I'm preparing for a bigger event or, well, anything that's reasonably important to me, I'll probably do like 20 to 25 games max. I don't really go too much higher than that ever.
Do you feel like at a certain point there's diminishing returns where it can maybe even hurt you playing too many games, like creating bad habits?
Well, it depends, but in general...
We'll just assume everything depends at this point. That's why I believe we have the emote, at least on Twitch. I'm not sure if I have it on YouTube, but whenever there's a question at this level, at any level of StarCraft, we'll just assume it depends. Is going Ghost first against Cannon Rush good? It depends, but also no. But like,
Depends on the pros follow-up. Yeah, this is how it works. But yeah, I do think practicing too much or over-practicing in general isn't necessarily the best way to go about it. But
do you watch games a lot, like your own replays, other replays? Is that part of like a daily or improvement thing? Or
yeah, I do study a lot of Zerg replays or what's VODs or whatever. Just to get ideas for the most part, right? That's what I'm looking for. And if I have a game myself where I'm like not sure why I lost, I'll check it out. But I feel like at my level, at least in StarCraft, usually you lose because of relatively obvious reasons.
Mineral patch.
would you say
strong,
mostly like
but it's not
mechanical
coming
or
back.
just macro based mistakes as opposed to like build order decisions?
Not so much build order decisions for Zerg, but yeah,
Just build
some
queens.
dumber mistakes, I guess. It's not usually like massive macro mistakes
You
or
must
that kind of stuff,
construct
but
additional supply depots.
I gotta go
Just,
back to Tarkus here. Tarkus, who found the hidden base, and I'm looking at Tarkus's camera. He did a full drop there and did not look at it for like a minute, which I think is actually quite a good thing to be able to focus on your macro like this, but it's also
Yeah,
very
well, it's not-
impressive. And there we go, stim and combat shield.
yeah, well, I was just gonna say he's not really using his Raxus here, but the drop is very impressive for sure. And
Upgrades
you were
finished.
right, he didn't actually.
Mind out of that
He didn't
cluster.
know those
And stay in
upgrades
the game?
exist. He just
Nice.
forgot about them, so that's good for him.
Oh, he's even got on his production key. Now, I'm not in love with adding all of your production and your armories and your tech labs. I haven't seen too many players even add their tech labs to hotkeys. I know
Research all done.
some pros will do it, but that's actually something I've tried to do in the past, but theoretically is a good idea. I'm quite impressed that he even thought to do that. Yeah, he's got some interesting control groups there. He does not like even numbers, is what I'm seeing from this. On 1, 3, 5, and 7.
Research complete. But have we learned?
Yeah,
anything?
that's some
Your
strange
add-on's been
hotkeys for
constructed.
sure, but it's actually very interesting.
He's using
How he
multiple
came up with
hotkeys
that
for
setup.
army units, which I already find very impressive. Like, that is a rarity up through Grandmaster to an extent.
It truly is,
Research
but
finished. But I'm still
it
waiting.
is
on
also a
Black
question
Auto
how
check.
much are we using those hotkeys? Or did we just set the hotkey and we're never gonna use it, or how it works? But if you use a couple army hotkeys, that's always a good start for sure. Bit slow on the minimap reaction. Doesn't see there's a prism there. But,
Yeah.
Enemy is
that-
all over your SCVs.
it's a pretty small dot on the map, so okay.
You think they should make it larger?
You could make it larger for
I
sure.
don't
but
know if that would necessarily help in this particular case. Wow,
Yeah.
he is quite focused on the macro.
He's doing good on macro department. A lot of supply, not really floating that much. His
took all
eco
minerals
isn't
from
that
that
great.
cluster
It's
you beat.
basically a 2-base eco, right? But still, good macro.
I'm impressed.
For a
Like, you can
first
tell he's
game.
not using the select all army hotkey. With I think he's got a marine, and yeah, he's got a marine on every single base, which is some real due diligence there. So this is quite a mix. And with that prism, I'm sure you're seeing the prism.
I'm
is-
watching
is-
it with my eyes. I'm just watching it. Why is it not going down?
Command center? Better than ever.
Well, one, the Protoss is supply block, so they can't warp anything in. And two, the Terran has not looked at the minimap for several minutes, so...
Yeah,
that-
he has units a bit everywhere. And there's tanks there. He still didn't salvage his bunkers. Now he probably realizes there's a warping coming in.
He saw it. And here we are. But
If
still,
only he would hit the hotkey 7 where he has his 2 white.
He did.
Oh, never mind. There they are.
oh my god.
Upgrade complete. But at what cost?
Well, yeah, looking a bit like a campaign mission, the base right now, but still. That's where he got most of his experience playing, I think, so far, so not too surprising. You remember, this did start with a cannon rush. I will say, his camera movement is quite frantic. Just moving it around. Do you have your, this... Oh, well, actually, no. Oh my
no.
god.
That's that.
Huh. That's not great. He does have 3,000 minerals, which he's now trying to fix.
Yeah, but the problem is that his production isn't that amazing. So he's not gonna be able to. He should have added some production buildings a bit earlier here for sure.
Well, the
And he also has
Protoss
no real counter for the Colossus.
is not finding the best engagement angle there. The
No, I
Disruptor
think it's
micro
pretty
was
good.
not perfect. Oh, good stutter step. And the Colossus is gonna die to the tank. But wait, there's another Colossus. Alright. So clearly Terran wins that fight.
Wait, Protoss lost his whole army?
I wouldn't say lost it, I would say traded it for nothing.
I was so sure the game was over, man. He got completely wiped there, but I guess it's never over before it's over. There we see the F2 though, Ultimarine's coming back. A little bit
You know,
of panic
I'll
move
give
there.
him that one. I'll give him that one. That did look bad. I mean, you said, you thought it was over, so...
Yeah, I would have done the same.
Refinery depleted. Where did it all go?
And still 3,500 minerals in the bank. I'll say, like, this is some very book-smart Terran.
Ready for
Like, we got everything
upgrade's been
right.
completed.
I think if he played a few dozen more games, he'd be looking pretty
Upgrade
solid.
is all done.
High metal leagues. Platinum, diamond, something like that.
CC upgrade done. You remember
Yeah, maybe
this
a
time?
couple more than couple, but
Yeah, a couple, okay, like a couple hundred.
Camp, the enemy is
Do you remember how many games it took you to get to Masters originally? Or generally, like not the exact number of it.
Ready for dust off.
no, I don't know. I kind of always remember because Master wasn't at the start of the game, right? Initially,
fair, yeah.
Diamond was the highest, so I always remember that I was always at the highest rank. Well, I wasn't at Grandmaster instantly, but I think I got to Masters instantly when it was announced, pretty much, or released, or whatever. But
Yeah, like
some
season
people
2,
say
I
that
think?
but some people say my memory is incorrect, and that's not true. So I'm not sure which one it is.
The enemy is all over your
Who
SCVs.
says that? Who's telling you you're wrong?
Well, my brother is very convinced that I was even at Platinum at one point, but I'm not taking that.
Well,
Your base is
I
under
guess it
assault.
doesn't matter too much now. Yeah. I started
No.
out as Terran because all my friends, which I had at the time because I wasn't a StarCraft player yet. Oh my, this DT is finding a lot of success. I started out as Terran, and like GSL was over 50% Terran.
enemy
Terran
is
was
attacking your
statistically very strong, but also I was Silver League. So I eventually got to Diamond, and then I switched to Zerg and got demoted to Platinum, but quickly got like to Masters off that. But I think the summary is, you should play what you think is the coolest at the lower levels. As clearly here, even though Protoss is known for being very strong
Base under attack.
and
Time
easy
to
at
look
the
to the
lower
corner,
levels,
Bray.
at the end of the day, you can find success with any race, except for in European Grandmaster. That might be the exception.
Yeah, well, you can probably find success with any race there as well. But yeah, this game is still not over, by the way. It's not
It
a
is.
Terran victory.
So I don't know who wins, but there is only 1 minute left in this game, Serral. Who do you think wins? Your prediction.
I'll just take a quick check at the upgrades. It's pretty even. Pros wins.
All right.
It's gonna be a similar fight to the previous one, where it just completely smacked.
How about that disruptor hit? Does he have storm?
Oh,
Oh,
no,
the
Storm,
EMPs.
Oh, he just went right before Storm, actually.
Out of gas at that geyser.
Poor,
But only
who's
cost
the
minerals.
opponent's name? Poor Doom.
Poor Doom.
But I was wrong there. It's still pretty much even supplies, so anyone can win here. But I guess Tarkus will just break him. But he did a good job of expanding at least the whole game.
I
Always
like
had
him
lot of bases.
diligently putting 3 workers in each gas at the base that doesn't have a base at it, just to make sure he doesn't oversaturate. Gotta have priorities. Speaking of, you may end up being right. Storm
Yeah,
is
I'm
done.
right actually after all.
I don't think that was Templar have enough energy yet.
Yeah, carriers are kind of crap against Marines, but there's not that many Marines.
And he does
He
have
actually got
Thors,
close to the
but
Marines.
well,
Impressive.
the Thors in the splash damage mode, but he's actually killing all the interceptors, and then the Storm killed the rest, I think. GG.
Yeah.
Tarkus takes it. And the classic, like, oh, I want to get your thoughts on this. GGing after your opponent GGs. What are your feelings on this?
It's just normal, isn't it?
So when somebody types GG to you, which I assume they do more than the other way around, do you try to GG back before they leave the game?
Well, people are so fast at leaving, you don't really have
But
time.
do you
but
try?
well, not initially, but if the opponent stays in the game for like 3 seconds, then I do usually write GG.
Do you
because
not
maybe they're
assume-
waiting.
Do you not assume
Maybe they're
that
waiting.
Do you not assume like after 3 seconds they're trying to like warp DTs in or something?
No, I'm thinking that they're just waiting for me to say good game back.
Well,
So
that-
then I write good game.
I get so tilted when I type GG and then I mess it up and I hit like F11 instead, and then they type GG back. That just ruins that ruins like the next 3 games for me. So
Wait, really?
I was talking with Harstum Harstum said that he has GG ready when he knows he's winning and they're gonna type it. He has it typed in, ready to type it back to them to try to get before they leave the game. So this might just you might just be above all this, but the counter GG meta is real. But what I found at the meta leagues, players are so slow, and they kind of have the feeling, which I think is more sporting, to be honest. I'm just salty and cynical, but where GGing back is like good game. Started with a cannon rush, ended with that diverse engagement, plus 2 weapons almost done. But I think that was a pretty good representation, but there's no way he's staying in bronze.
Yeah, that was a very good, way above bronze level for sure from Tarkus. Good macro all around there, and some good decisions made during the game as well.
All right,
Go back to the GG conversation. I think GGing after the game is pretty bad, but
do you ever offensive GG?
No.
Do you get it? Like when you're playing on accounts that people might not know, though I find that hard to believe people wouldn't know based on the MMR. But do you ever get offensive GG?
No, not really.
That would require
can't
you
remember, at
losing, I
least.
guess. But and I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure anyone who's going to beat you, you may already know. So that might
I
not
have
be-
had some BM encounters when I have, for example, I remember when I was ranking up account in Korea, and I just wealth pooled just to get it over fast with, and then my opponent went like probe scouted and did like a cannon defense that it's natural. He was so happy he was gonna win that he got a little bit BM there, but obviously I still won the game in the end, even though he thought for a
Obviously.
moment that he was gonna win because of that.
Oh,
Good start.
the Serral experience. All right. For a moment there, I thought I might win. But, all right. So, hope score. We're going to go off 1 to 10. The hope score is something I say. I don't know if I went over this at the start, but either way, we're saying it again. All right. What do you think if Tarkus plays a decent amount of games, which I say is like 5 per league, so 5 for bronze, 10 for silver, etc. What do you think his chances of getting to the higher leagues are? Especially silver in this case, but then gold. And 10 would be guaranteed no matter what. 1 is, it's going to be hard to be demoted out of bronze, but
Yeah, well, I think we have 7 or 6 here. It's
7
well,
or
at
6?
least 7.
At least
seven.
a
Is that
7.
low? Is that
I'm giving
low?
him a 10. All right, I'm giving him
Really?
a 10. I saw a lot of great things there. There's no way he stays in bronze or silver. That is easily gold, in my opinion. But
Wait, 7 means he's gonna stay in bronze or silver?
no, it means he's gonna improve, but it's gonna be pretty hard. All right, like, it's kind of
Yeah, but
subjective.
improving
here.
is hard. I think that's pretty accurate.
All right, 7 out of 10 it is. I don't know. Keep working, you'll get to silver, Tarkus. Play your second game. I don't know how many more games he played after that, but I look forward to more.
No, I think Tarkus is gonna make it to gold in
believe.
no time.
All right, now it's time. We did have most of the replays skew towards now. Not like you can't talk about Terran. I remember casting a few years ago. You won the Finnish championships as Terran, but recently
That was
haven't
fun.
been- that was fun. Recently, you haven't been playing too much off race, correct?
No, I find it a little bit boring.
The other races are too easy.
Well, it's more like that. I feel like I would have to study them a little bit, and I just don't want to put in the effort because I don't want to play like no brain builds or. Yeah, I mean, it's my main problem is that I'm stuck always playing against pros in European ladder. Anyways, that's like why I stopped for the most part. I don't want to play TVP or PvP.
How's ZVP?
But CVP, it's
Better?
it's not better, but it's okay. It's okay.
But you're more
I
used
know
to
what
it.
I'm doing at least. I know what I'm doing at least, so that's good.
All right. Well, we'll have some ZVP later, but now ZVT. We're looking at Maraoz, and he just hasn't moved his camera at all. I have it on his camera. He just hasn't moved it. He's a gold Zerg player against Terran, going pool first here. So, how do you feel? Oh,
What was the pool timing here? It was like a 14 Overlord, 14 pool or something.
something like that. He's got 2 gases now into expand. It looks like. So,
I'm
thoughts
not
on the
sure
build?
about it.
Thoughts on the build so far?
Well, if he's not gonna take an expand, it's a pretty nice looking Ravager rush. But if he takes the base, then I'm not sure what the 2 gases are for. Because he can't really afford both here, that's for sure. Oh, he just didn't want his gas to be blocked by the SCV, maybe?
That's possible, I think. Can never be too careful about those SCV blocks on the gas.
Yeah, it's a bit too much on the gas for sure here, but probably has a plan. I feel like even a bit lower level players, they still have a plan for the resources they mine. What the plan is or how good it is a different question then.
Do you think he knows what his plan is yet?
I'm pretty sure he has like a plan that I'm gonna go fast muta or something like that. He's gonna do like a tech build here, for sure.
Yeah. Queen's finishing, so if you're gonna go... You know what? I guess you had more faith in him than I did.
You think he was just gonna mine 1,000 gas and leave the game after that?
Yeah, that I've seen it before. I mean, something more like just going mass circlings with 1,500 guests. That's actually one of the hardest parts. Not actually difficult, but one of the hardest parts of this level, like of gold to diamond, I would say, is you can never really read what your opponent is doing or what they could be doing, because they could easily have 1,000 in the bank. So even if it feels like you just destroyed their army, they could come out with another army once they figure out they need to build it. So I do think players that focus on their build do a lot better than players who worry about what their opponent is doing at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that that's pretty much the case for even for like master or well diamond at least.
Mutas. All right.
That is the most the most reasonable thing to do here, I guess.
How do you feel about Muta rushes nowadays?
Well, I mean, 2 base muta isn't like absolutely horrible. It's pretty bad at pro level, but it's probably good at lower levels, but this isn't really like a great 2-base muta build order, just because the opening was a bit weird. And
So I'm
not even
actually I'm gonna take off the kind of sarcastic, angry coach cap. But how would you go about like when do you get the lair? Like how many workers are you looking at for 2-base muta?
Well, you always want to get full saturation on the 2 bases, right? So 44 drones with 4 gases usually is what you would go for, and just a normal hatch first build build opening would be the best. But
You usually get wing speed before, assuming they have like a normal 1 Rax Reaper.
yeah, you would usually get that, but that's not
Or maybe
necessary.
you ever like start wing speed and then cancel it for the lair, something like that.
Well, I
too-
wouldn't recommend that, but it's doable for sure. It's not incorrect.
There are more correct builds, but
Oh no, he didn't make the mutas.
he's got to finish his +1 attack upgrade first. But
That ruins his build.
oh no, it's ruined now.
It's ruined.
Now he's gonna scout with that overseer. But honestly, one of the first reasons I played Zerg, I really like Mutalisk in Wings of Liberty, essentially before Widowmines. But it does make me a little sad that mutas are not, especially in ZVT, nearly as common or as I guess stable overall. How do you feel about mutas, especially ZVT, but just in general at the moment?
Well, there's just a little bit hit or miss.
Speaking of.
CVP and everything. It's easy to lose. Easy to lose when you make mutas. Accidentally.
Yeah. And I just feel like the economies are too high, too early. You can have the built-in response, like plenty of Marines, or every Protoss opens Stargate, right? So.
Yeah. Exactly, and it's just a big commitment, 200 to Aspire, and then if you make 10 mutas, we're already talking like 1200 resources. And just losing the 2 Cyclones there.
Everyone does it, alright? It's happened to everyone.
Maybe the link speed's the way to go after all.
He is building a dozen more lings. Does he realize? Well, you know, if you don't get ling speed, the lings don't get out far ahead of your mutas. So that way it's easier to micro.
Yeah, it's a good way to think for sure.
Queues up the Carapace upgrade there.
I guess his plan is just to invest everything in the mutas there, basically mass muta. Oh, that's getting speed. Just lacking the queens here though. That's the main problem.
I mean,
There we
of
go.
the problems, like, yeah, that is.
I think that's the main problem. Everything else is going perfect, especially the drone saturations. There we go. Nice
yeah.
split there.
So I noticed. Do you have? Or we have one of your replays lined up later, but I did want to ask before I forget. Like, do you rebind any of your control group hotkeys? Because I noticed you use essentially all of them. So are they like literally 1 through 9 or 0?
No, I think I have the 0 and 9. Well, some of the later ones put to W, and then the bottom on left side of 1 with whatever that is.
So the mouse button? Oh no, the tilde
bottom
key.
left.
Tilde key.
Yeah, the tilde key. Yeah, that one.
And I noticed you have your select all army hotkey on tab.
Do I?
How does that work?
Oh yeah.
Do you just never hit it, or how do you tab through unit groups if you have select all army hotkey in the same key?
Well, I don't have 2 spellcasters and 1 hotkey, I
So
guess.
you solved that by. I did notice that. That's
I never do use the tab really. Well, like cycle through
So-
unit types, that function I never have used.
so you're essentially playing it like almost Brood War, where you never want to have like multiple things on one key. You just have everything split into different controllers. Which is
Well, not exactly, but I guess yeah.
Because like even looking at other Zergs like Dark or Raynor, they don't use nearly as many control groups as you do on average. It's a very different style. So that is well, I can't imagine using like 8-9 groups, but I guess there's a reason you do pretty well. That's the hardest part for so many people.
I don't feel like I use that many. I don't use all the groups that actively. It's just that if you get in a very late game, then you kind of have to use all the groups. But naturally, mid game, it's pretty simple with like maybe 5 or 6 very,
Maybe
very
5 or
common
6.
groups.
Do you notice how many control groups our gold friend is using right now?
Yeah, that's the classic one for hatcheries.
Yeah, don't even think he has all his he does have all his hatcheries on it yet, so that's good.
Yeah. The interesting part here is that it's all about a lot about the map. Usually when you play, or at least I play, but here I can imagine we could have played any map and the gameplay looked exactly the same. Super gold base is not getting really used, which is a shame to see.
You like the gold base builds?
Well, even getting it like as a third base would have been a good idea here.
Metamorphosis complete.
But no, I'm not a big fan of gold bases in general.
What other map features? Oh, did he even drone at the watchtower? Well, hey, if you hit select arming hotkey, alright, doesn't ruin
That's
it.
smart.
Oh, he's coming in here. He's like, all right, attack's coming. So, mutas and lings. Liberator sieging up. I like the back row hatches. He knows his limits on injecting here. Queen's nearly a little late on the spines, I think.
Yeah, a little late.
Ooh,
I'm not sure if he can even hold this.
that's a lot of Terran. Oh,
That's a lot of mutas.
Oh. I think both players are kind of figuring out how this. Yeah, that's fine. Mutas. Does he have burrow on all those drones?
That's a good move.
Wow, what a play.
Cancel the spines and we are all good to go.
I think he should leave them.
I don't think so.
He'll have them later.
Wait, did he just emptied his natural, went all drones to the third base?
It's already used.
Yeah, mutas are fun and all, but they don't deal with the basic Terran units, so that is one of their downsides for sure.
Especially with no banelings involved.
Yeah. We're going for an infestation bit, so I'm hoping we are
triple
gonna see
evo?
some ultras.
I like the little larva left over out there, just hanging out. From the former macro hatch.
Yeah.
So when you do injects, do you usually use base camera or camera locations or some combination?
Choose the camera locations or camera hotkeys or whatever they're called. And then I sometimes use it. Well, I have 2 inject methods, right? I either right click the camera hotkey button and then I just box the queen and inject, or then I just have all my queens selected and camera hotkey inject.
And
That way,
you
which
just try
is a
to use
little bit
whatever.
faster. What do you mean? What do you mean? Use whatever?
I noticed you usually have at least one hotkey, like a select all queens hotkey, essentially, just in case.
Well, I have usually my creep queens and inject queens separated, but if you're talking about injecting, I do always have a hotkey for the injecting queens for sure.
Yeah. All right, here comes the army. I feel like this is the level where players are kind of trying to emulate what they've seen, like higher level players, but
Did we just agree that we haven't seen Muta play though?
well, maybe he's watching games from 10 years ago. I don't. That's
Mutas are a little bit unfortunate here because you need to harass with them, but we are just playing them with. He's getting good upgrades for them, so that's good, but he's maybe using them a little bit wrong.
He's gonna have 2/2 mutas, which is quite an accomplishment.
That is. It's gonna be also over 100 supply behind here.
That is a bit rough. Yes. Is he gonna
Well,
try?
maybe if
he's
maybe if it was like Brood War, maybe if it was like Defilers or something, it'd be doable. But
I enjoy the burrowing of the drones to block the bases. All right, haven't quite seen that one. Using a solid like 10% of his economy to burrow and block.
pretty much.
Oh no, that's a lot of Marines.
We have the Bailings though. Oh,
Well, somebody got him nerfed by 5 HP, so that was the real issue.
I think so. I think he can still win the base trade though. If the Terran kills his
do?
buildings low. I believe it. 2 mutas after all.
So, in order to vet some of these games, I looked at the like army value and stuff. Like I try not to spoil myself on games, even for like coaching stuff. But I didn't realize when I looked at the army value, which he's not too far behind in total resources, but right now that entire army value is in mute against 87 Marines.
Yeah. Terran even has to rest there.
Well,
Can get himself some extra time by
is he
robbing
going to
the
die?
drone.
Wait, did he unburrowed the drone and built a hatchery at the Terran's third, so
That's
if it comes
smart.
to a base trade. When was the last time you got into like a real like being revealed style base trade in a game that could go either way?
It's not that rare to be honest. I feel like I'm at least once a month. Well, I guess that's pretty rare. But
That's pretty
at
rare,
least like
then.
once a month. Once a month at least I have a game like that.
He doesn't have any money, so
Well, he doesn't have anything. He's
how
not
long do
anymore.
you stay in the game at this point?
Oh,
No GG. Ooh,
wow. I wouldn't have GG'd that one. Well,
you
I would
wouldn't have GG'd that?
I would have. Yeah, I mean, the problem was just the early build order, right? Well, I mean, the early build order wasn't even the problem. The problem was not using the mutas and not building them instantly, right? That was like the main problem there.
So
I feel like if we would have just built 8 mutas when the Spire finished, instead of building them 2 minutes later, he would have probably got the Terran off guard with like 1 Marine.
So pretty much a muta build, maybe. Execution could use a lot of work though.
Yeah. And maybe.
All right.
Maybe.
So
Yeah, maybe.
Gold Zerg, Hope score 1 to 10.
I'm not really sure what my score exactly means now. You made me worried the last time when you made fun of me, but I think this is like
Do you think he will stay gold, or do you think he can improve to platinum the way he was playing there?
Well, I think this is like a 6.
Giving him a 6.
Yeah, it's 1 lower than the previous. Or maybe I'll rate the previous one too low. So now I
You
have
set
to
the bar too low, all right, or too high
Yeah.
rather. I'm giving it
Yeah.
a 5. That was some of the most gold Zerg. The decision making was non-existent. Like he forgot about a baneling nest against mass marines. Okay, you can't just bake up 1,000 gas even in the Gold League. Just make roaches like the rest of us, all right? Like
Yeah.
sorry.
Roaches was the way there for sure. Would have been the
But
easier win.
Serral thinks you have a chance, Marcos. So
Yeah,
maybe
well,
put some more effort
thing
in.
is-
Stop embarrassing the Zergs out there.
Yeah, well, the thing is that I would also put it to 5 if but the thing is that I kind of resetted my rating method between these 2 games, but this was like 2 ranks lower than the previous one for sure. But at the
Just in
same time, I don't think the last one was 7, so it was like 8. So
You
this
don't
was-
have to be
like a
consistent. You
6.
can just make it up. That's what I usually do. Like usually what happens during the Angry Coach is I have people kind of respond. I'm usually leading question like, how do you think mutas are going to work in this scenario? And they're like, well, I like mutas because they're good against like cyclones. And I'm like, that was dumb. All right, -1. But Of course, they're not here to defend themselves, so we'll be fair. But overall, I think Muta build should stay with, well, yours truly and other players like it, so I can be disappointed by them against Clem. That's essentially the extent of Muta builds I've seen lately, and my experience as well. If you really want to rank up, roaches are right there. That's my opinion.
Yeah, well, even suicidal in Bane, right?
That's a lot of
Mutas
larvae.
are-
Did you see those injects, Serral? Like,
Yeah, I did see them.
or the lack thereof. Oh, we're looking at, in this case, it's Platinum Zerg. I have a whole set of memes about Platinum Zergs.
So who are we looking? Are we looking at Hulk
Delk.
or Nostalgia?
What did you say?
Oh, I thought it was Hulk. Why? It's
Delk.
Delk.
Delk. The Zerg, top right, but ZVZ.
Well, he's not a Zerg. He was a Platinum player, I understood, at least because he said his race at the start of the game. But he's Zerg in this game.
Yeah, I think it showed up as Protoss for some reason, but he's Zerg here. Yeah, I think we have more Zergs than the others. It just worked out that way for the most part. But I think a lot of Zergs get bogged down. You can already tell this guy with his camera movements is clearly at least has an idea of higher level stuff. I tell
This
people,
guy's fast.
yeah, I tell people if you're gonna copy one thing, now you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but if you're gonna copy one thing from Serral, I think we're all fast enough to copy your overlords. All right, of all the units, overlords are the one thing. Would you say copying your overlord placements would be a good move for even your platinum level players?
Sure. But I don't think my Overlord placements are that special, but you could copy them for sure.
Well, what is the priority for overlord placements in ZVZ?
Just do all the paths, so you see if their units leave from the bases. Usually, you at least want to have 2 of these on the outer side. Even 3 is possible. I usually actually have 3 myself, but I think 2 is more common.
And what about Terran and Protoss? I think I noticed you usually only send 1 all the way across and then have like a secondary one further back. Is that correct?
Yeah, just 1 across usually, and then, well, you kind of just want to have 1 at your natural, right? Even in this matchup, initially, you kind of want to have 1 at your natural at first, in case something cheeky happens. But, yeah, just one across in those 2 matchups usually.
Speaking of cheeky. Oh, 2 queens. He didn't notice them, but he also snuck out the links because the other player has his overlord in kind of a more ZVT sort of spot there. So, yeah, ZVZ.
We are sneaking out links, but I don't think these links even kill the 2 queens there.
He's got 16 more on the way. Well, the gold base is a bit ambitious. I've seen some players maybe wall it off with like something like a roach horn or something like that, but that's quite a unique scenario.
That is very unique. I had never seen that before.
Never, eh?
No, but this I have seen many times. The classic Ling Bane, and let's get over with the CVCs fast.
What I will say about ZVZ, as someone who plays like random essentially, I like ZVZ in PvP because when you lose, it's quickly. Like, you just kind of lose.
Yeah, it's
But-
a pretty quick matchup.
Well,
Sadly, that's a spine. Well, I guess luckily for Delk, that's a spine, so he actually gets through here, but 5 queens.
he's, well, feel like that could have been a little more efficient.
Yeah, but opponent's playing so safe. Wait, I think the opponent doesn't even have a gas, actually. It's completely gasless, just trying to take the gold base with mass queens.
I think it's kind of working so far. What is the worker count? Yeah. What is your
It's anyone's game.
What is your preferred ZVZ at the moment? Do you usually open up with the Ling Bane still, or are you trying to go roaches?
Well, I mean, I always try to go
depends.
roaches, but you kind of have to always go Lingbane. Anything besides Lingbane is kind of garbage for the most part. But obviously you try to go roaches as soon as possible afterwards.
I like the drone. Just kind of got hotkeyed in, sticking around.
Yeah, but that's just a good sign. That means that he knows how to add units to his control groups.
Yeah, he's not using Select All Army if he keeps using the control group with the drone. All right, we're going for another round.
Could give up on this push, I think, already.
It's gonna be Mutas again.
Queens there. It kind of looks like it, but at the same time we are not adding any gases, so and we are making out of bailings, so that kind of makes it less likely. But at the same time, what are we gonna do? Big fan of the double expansion, though. Always when you're banking a little bit with Zerg, it's not a bad idea to just take a couple expansions.
Do you think macro hatches are underused, just in general, by Zergs?
Sure, they are pretty underused, I would say. They give you more flexibility, and also you can just miss macro. You give yourself the option to miss macro a little, miss macro a little bit if you have some macro hatches behind. But usually you can macro without the macro hatches. It just makes it a bit more forgiving, and well, sometimes you just run out of larva if you don't have them. If you trade like a ton and you have a ton of bank, but they're a bit underused, I would say.
The rule I use for your Metal League players especially is if you have 1,000 minerals and no larva, build a hatch. Like, it doesn't matter if you can start injecting. Like, you should inject, obviously. But it doesn't matter. That larva's not here right now, and you're probably not going to inject perfectly in the future. So 1,000 minerals, slap another one down. Maybe you expand, maybe not, but...
Poor Delk doesn't realize this 10 roaches is natural.
It does look like the queen, or the queens pushed away or killed all the overlords. Not that I think that necessarily would have helped very much.
He's doing pretty good supply-wise, so if you just would have made units there, it maybe would have been a good haul. It's still gonna be a haul. He maybe loses this one base, but he has more bases behind.
Bit of a tough scenario, but he is rallying the roaches.
I don't think it's that tough. He has the super gold base.
He does have to mine from it in order to get the benefit, I believe. But
oh, I didn't know that's how it works.
You're welcome. That one's free. It does make a good target, though, to potentially get enough roaches to hold. After all the times he stopped his opponent's gold base.
That was a good snap for sure. He just needs to split his eco again, which isn't doing a good job of. And he actually finishes his roach speed. Maybe he can out micro the opponent's roaches there. If that's a thing.
Is that a thing? Is roach micro actually real?
Well, I guess we'll see it here if it is real.
How much would you value the +1 upgrade? Like over +0? Like, it definitely is a damage upgrade, but I don't know. Is it worth 10% more roaches? 20%?
The +1 attack upgrade or what upgrade?
Yeah, say you have +1 and they still have +0.
No, well, it's not. It's big, but
it's not a great question. But
it's big, but it's usually a numbers game. It's usually a numbers game, but upgrades are big in roach versus roach battles for sure at the same time.
I guess a better question is +2 ranged attack or +1 carapace as like a second upgrade. So assuming it's roach battles.
+2 always there.
Is it because of the damage scaling?
Well, it's just a better upgrade. It takes a little bit longer, but it's just a better upgrade.
So we actually did hold with some of that roach micro, but...
I'm not sure if it's because the roach micro, but yeah, I guess.
There was micro somewhere. The transfuses?
Microing.
I don't know if that was necessary.
Yeah, I'm not sure my Aether, but just looking at the supplies, he's supposed to have enough. Maybe it's just that. Maybe it's just that many more drones. I'm not really sure.
Oh no!
I'm
Oh,
gonna check.
now the opponent's about to have +2, +2.
Yeah,
Burrow
maybe the
micro.
upgrade deficit for sure. The Burrow micro is nice. It's very rare to see that.
Man, I think
But,
he's using it pretty well.
It's numbers game anyways, and no micro there, it would have been good enough as well.
Well, that was a
Just
pretty.
the early game was rough.
Yeah, I think the Ling Bane into Mass Queen defensive wall-in was maybe not the ideal choice. So, what would you do there? You see they have like 5 queens and a spine crawler at the wall.
5 queens and I haven't seen that in a while, I'll have to admit, but if I was to see that, I would just play to kill the third base and make a lot of drones behind. Usually, because the problem with the queens is right that they're nice and all, but they're not gonna give you a third base that fast, and then they're also not good offensively. Well, you can nidus them across, but for the most part, they're kinda crap in this matchup. If it's like you should have go Mutas there, but besides that, you just play standard Roach with good eco and deny the third base.
All right, so for Platinum, what do you think for Delk here?
Well, I'm thinking it's hard to say based on that game, just because.
Now remember, Platinum
How-
is filled
how-
with Zerg versus Zerg, so that is a pretty good example of the matches he'll be playing.
Yeah, but he usually doesn't lose his first Overlord like that. I think that was just an unlucky thing.
That's,
but
It's a bold statement.
I'm thinking like I'm thinking it is like a 7.
A 7.
I think pretty highly of that.
I think he's right where he belongs. All right.
You think so?
I think he went too far down that like Ling Bane road without reacting. He should have learned. If you want to get to Diamond and be a potato Zerg in Diamond, you got to at least get to Lair Tech quickly when you know they're bottled up on 2 bases.
I
So
don't
easy to
know,
get
man.
bogged
The
down.
macro was pretty good there.
You're probably right. I'm just being mean. But it's still rough to see the holding down the Ling Bane button and then slamming it into a queen wall.
Yeah, that was a horrible decision. You can't make that sound nice for sure. But I see some hope in this in Delk.
He's got a chance. Well, the next one, I feel like I'm going to be a little biased because it's me versus one of my viewers who's usually masters Protoss. And this is, not that it's particularly relevant in this matchup, but we're playing on the new balance patch notes, which PvZ is not really affected too much by that, but
No, it's affected a little bit, but not too much. Yeah.
not at my level. I don't think the infestor burrow changes in fungal range are, I'll tell you right now, I'm not getting too much mileage out of that. But
I'm very happy Infestor's getting 1 extra range. Makes
Yes.
me.
well,
glad.
what about yes, are you going to win everything now? Wait.
No, I don't think it affects that.
Okay. What do you think about the infestor changes?
They seem okay. I think
You don't
1
think it's a
extra
nerf?
range on the fungal is a good change, just because you can't reach the Tempest otherwise with the fungal.
Oh,
The
yeah,
only reason.
You were talking about how the actual struggle in ZVP was those Tempests, which do technically not really have a counter as Zerg. You kind of just gotta jump on them with your units and hope you have enough. At least seems to be it. But what about...
Yeah, well, you have to jump on them, but that's the thing, that CVP is kind of a stalemate, so you can't really... Usually, the one who you have to jump is not really in a good spot, but... Yeah.
And have you tested out the visibility change, the like sandworm infestors?
No, but I think they were very, very visible already before, so I can't imagine.
You might be the only one.
They were like insanely visible. I mean, very really easy to see. I feel like it's just usually that if they don't show on the minimap, like it's pretty unlikely your camera is watching there. So I don't think that makes a big difference.
I think what you seem to do better than quite literally everyone is have them in the right spot before the fight. I see a lot of players get scanned because they're moving them into position during the fight, but you usually seem to have them already in the right spot. So I do expect you're going to still find success, especially with a little more range.
Yeah, but it's harder to do it during the fights if they take longer to unburrow, but it's still for sure a tactic that will work, but the burrow fungal is getting nerfed, but in general I'm happy with the +1 range on the fungal. I think that's just the part I like.
And one less range on liberators, so...
Yeah, that is nice as well.
Got a new queen leading the pack.
Maybe don't have to make a corruptor every time a leap goes behind your base.
Yeah, I will say it's not my favorite form of late game harass to deal with, as really any race.
Pretty garbage. It's pretty garbage for sure.
And then, well, the next one after this, we're going to be stepping up, which is you versus Clem, and I'll talk about the Widowmine then, as we'll see a few more of them there. But yes, this is me in ZVP. So I've been going back and forth on the 16 hatch, like the extractor cancel and the hatch to try to get it before the probe. What do you think about that one?
Well, I think this one is better, but maybe
the 16 hatch
one
is
is a
better?
bit. Yeah, just the standard old 16 hatch and take the base there if you get blocks better, but in general the other ones maybe a little bit simpler because you can. It's always the same situation you get into, but maybe I would recommend the 15 hatch in general, but at the pro level I do kind of think the
15 hatch, like
16 hatch is
extractor
better.
cancel? Or...
Well, you can't really do the 15 hatch always though, because it can also get blocked.
Like if
So
they
you
pull the
have to do
probe
a
at the
14
very
hatch
start.
sometimes. Yeah, that's not like a rare thing to do, so you kind of have to 14 hatch sometimes, but that's basically the same thing anyways. But yeah, it just depends, I guess. It's not that big of a deal. It's just hard to play against two adepts when your bases are separated like this. That's like the main hard thing. But I like that you try to take my focus off the game, so I can't trash talk your game.
You
want to
go back? I'm happy to go back. Actually,
No,
I'm going
not
back.
much happening.
I think I do a pretty standard. Like it all comes down to this is the kind of stuff. I'll be honest. In YouTube casts, I usually skip to like 2.5-3 minutes in ZVP, because as interesting as like the probe versus drone micro is, to maybe a lower level observer, it looks exactly the same every single game. So you have like 3 hatch versus Stargate, like 2 adepts come out. Like usually that's the point when things start kind of splitting, right? Like when the adepts and the oracle come out. But before that, the production tab is almost identical. You could cast with your eyes closed, probably.
Pretty much.
So,
but not the case here. You are going for a very fast Evo chamber here, so you are planning some sort of
Cluster just popped out a queen.
ling pressure at least
So-
with the +1.
this is one of those, like, I get to have this is what I'm planning on, because I've played, this is one of my viewers, IOV Spartan, if you're watching. He does win this game, spoilers. But we go 50-50-ish, so I find it pretty good, especially when finding custom games for like the new patch and stuff. But anyways, he likes the Blink Stalker follow-up. So I'm thinking, like, let's go with the Mass Zergling, like Ravagerling, into late game. But I do find myself getting bogged down, like, in that sort of roach style and not getting to Hive in time. I think you can always build enough units to defend, but then you're left with such a low economy going into like 3-4 bases that Protoss just has a better army at that point. So how do you usually handle the post-Oracle, I guess, Hive Tech phase? What are the big parts of that?
Just a ton of units, and roaches are usually the best unit because they are cheap. But I mean, the key is to always try to play for 3-base saturation, at least full 3-base mineral saturation, and at least getting that 4th base. So the moment you actually kind of deal with all the harass and whatnot, or all the like early, well, like mid-game harass with like the stalkers, you can instantly drone it up. And to get a bit of an explosion on the economy, it's pretty important. But just making a lot of lower tech units in general is how you should do it. But to go, the Evo was a little bit too fast here this game for sure, because there's no reason to get it quite that fast.
Yeah, you're not going for +2 anymore.
Yeah. It's not like you're rushing +2 anymore, just because it's kind of pointless. It's still a good upgrade, but it doesn't have the same explosive benefits as it used to. So maybe like a minute late, like a 30 seconds or a minute later on that +1 would have been a good move, just because then you get a bit more economy in those early moments.
Our forces are under attack.
I'm thinking at this point, he doesn't have a 4th, like he hasn't even attempted it yet, so I need units to defend, because he's probably doing these big gateway timing. And I always get a macro hatch early because I don't trust myself to inject. And
That's
it usually
reasonable.
pays off. I'm planning for the failure to inject, because I'd rather have the queens like out on the edge, fighting if I need to.
Forces are under attack.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you are going for the +1 melee and there's a potential you're gonna be making a lot of links, getting a macro hatch is early is pretty good. You could have also placed that hatchery to your 5th base location or somewhere there. Would have been pretty good as well.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's true that he's not taking a 4th base and you kind of have to make units. But at the same time, if you would have actually scouted that he had his 5th and 6th gas, you could have for sure thrown up a little bit more, because you are kind of just mirroring him in economy, and that's not really a good thing.
I think this is another example of players of like not high level. I didn't think about the gases. I'm just thinking about the bases. I'm basing it, puns intended, on that. Like the gases are not registering at all. And also look at his gas in the bank as well. He's not spending it. So
yeah, that is correct.
So at this level, I think, well, I mean, it's important, and you're definitely, obviously, like, I'm not going to dispute Serral telling me what to do here, but yeah. I will say, like, looking at the guesses is something. At this point, I usually kind of just, once again, I don't trust myself to always have the units in the right spot, so I'd rather just build 10 spines, like, and then refill the drones. And
yeah, well, you should first build the drones and then the spines, not the other way around.
Mission's complete.
80 drones. Ooh, well, that's a win.
This is a nice win.
Got forces under attack
Yeah.
out there.
The lurker dead.
What about 80 drones? Are you saying 80 drones is enough?
I'm not saying 80 drones is enough. I think
I think
90
you
is
should
pushing
have
it.
You should have with 90 drones and then built the spines. Then I would have been nicer. Would have not felt nicer at least.
All
But now
right.
you went, and because then you went down to like 70 drones or whatever, right? For a moment, and that just
What
eats
about
the
that
soul.
supply block?
It's okay.
Forces are under attack.
Zerg supply blocks are they're not the end of the world usually.
Because you're banking up the
Brand new
larva meanwhile.
evolution over here. We got a creature
Yeah, as
under
long as you
attack.
don't die during the supply block, or you are not getting supply block during the droning phase, it's not too bad. When you're just making units, it doesn't really matter when the units pop. But then I guess you're kinda in a little bit of trouble here because of the block now.
Yeah. I think I didn't really respect how many gateway units he could have because he didn't do that mid-game timing. And then, well,
Mineral clusters mined out.
Incredible micro though. Dodging the storms, just need more bailing.
yeah. always a tough time to fight. Like,
Got forces under attack out there. Looks
Yeah,
like
well, the thing is that you kind of would like to get like a decisive fight against these kind of armies. Just
I feel
blow
like
out
if you
their-
don't have that late game tech, you just have to rely on whittling it down. Like if you don't have the lurkers and stuff out. I think it was a mistake to not have lurkers by this stage.
Well, you can deal with armies like this with just banelings. You don't need the lurkers yet, but I guess lurkers would have been easy. Made it a lot easier. Especially since he doesn't have detection. Or does he?
evolution.
No, I'm pretty sure there's
Got
none.
forces under attack out there.
But yeah, it's you're surviving. Now we're getting the lurker phase.
Mineral cluster
I've
depleted.
noticed you, especially against ground, you just kind of skip to broodlords lately,
Depleted that
as
mineral
opposed to
cluster.
trying like the heavy lurker composition against like ground toss. Is that like a
We got
trend?
creep
Or
tumor under attack.
in general, do you favor that, or is it just something you're trying out?
Well, I do think Prolords are better than lurkers, but they're a bit harder to get to because they take longer and are a bit more expensive. But at the same time, nowadays you kind of need both anyways if you're going for a long game, so it doesn't really matter which one you make first. Because you may have to make both of them anyways, more often than not.
Mineral cluster
So,
depleted.
this is probably the hardest part for me. I'd say that after winning a fight, but I've won a fight now.
That
how do I
mineral
win the
cluster's
game?
mined out.
Just take a deep breath and settle
this an
down and
army
get
that
some
should win?
spores. No, well, maybe that's not the way to win. Usually, making spores is takes a little bit of practice winning that way, but yeah, you kind of need more supply here. That's what you need. Also, you don't have any carapace upgrades, making your hydras complete garbage against the carriers. But you have a timing here, but at the same time, you don't have the supply to really make this kind of push work. You get swarmed by zealots here.
I feel like I've seen this happen to many Zergs before. It's like, I have 8 lurkers, that's enough. No, it's not enough. Like, especially against the charge lots with no armor. And that
That
is
mineral
how you
cluster's mined
get back
out.
in this terrible situation. So, I
You
haven't
just
seen...
needed to. I think you just need to make more lurkers and max out there. Just get like 30 more. Wait like 30 seconds to 1 minute before sending it there. And then I think you actually would have maybe taken him down there.
And I'm thinking a big mistake here is just, well, 1, not scouting that base to the north, which was kind of a freebie. And 2, there's no spire. I lose that fight and I start tunnel visioning like I need more lurkers, but he's already going
Your
carriers.
forces are under attack.
Do you
Yeah,
think...
well, you're not
Depleted that
knowing
mineral
this carriers, that's for sure. There's no real scouting going on. But it is true that the spire would be nice, but you don't really have the echo to go for a spire either here. So I think it's reasonable to stay on this. But if you had like a...
Mineral cluster.
Well, your drone
depleted.
count's good, but if you had like a 5th and 6th base, then yeah, usually making a spire. Just even blind spires are pretty good. You don't even need to like know its carriers. Just because
mineral cluster's
even making
mined
like
out.
a spire and making 1 corruptor for the warp prism is usually worth it. Because 1 prism can be so annoying.
No. Do you have a rule for, like, I know you're very diligent about, like, overseer scouting and stuff. But if you don't see carriers and you know, when are you making the spire, usually? Just assuming you don't get any info.
Mutation complete. Looks like the enemy's aiming
Just
for
when
a
you have
creep
the money
tumor.
for it.
Just a
Does
hive
that
tech,
help?
like, if you're maxed out and you have
creep
your
tumor
army,
under
is it
attack.
time to build a spire then?
Yeah, well, I would usually max out first. Usually,
Your forces are under attack.
I guess, if I
Depleted
was
that
to do a
mineral
blind
cluster.
spire. But it just depends a little bit.
Looks like
As
the
we
enemy's aiming
already
for a
learned, it
tumor.
always depends.
And now for the
But,
hardest part for us normie players, which is not microing lurkers. I stare at that for so long, and it just dies to cannons. That's always depressing. But now we get into the having to use energy
Brand new
bars phase,
evolution over here.
which Do you have any profound tips for microing Vipers, Infestors, Queens, and air units all at the same time?
Well, you just need to simplify it, right? That's all you have to do. Don't make so complicated armies. It's a good starting point. But I guess like I think the easiest army to control is just because like what beats this army is usually just Ultras and the Corruptor Viper, and that's pretty easy to micro as well. So that's usually what you should go for. Obviously, this game you were so poor after those last 4 minutes that it's hard to get like a Ultra switch or a big Corruptor switch. But
I've never seen a player so poor on 99 drones. I haven't been able to get any more bases.
That's the main problem, right?
Got forces under attack out there.
I think it is partly like I like to play a style that is kind of like multitasking, like
Yeah.
but I don't have the APM for it. Old and sad. Or it comes down to not really practicing enough. If I play 30, 40 games, then I get back like 30, 40 games in a couple days and I'll get back into it, but
Yeah.
it is tough. I noticed you just seem
in this case it's always tough. It's gonna be this kind of game is always gonna be tough, but that's the big part because you are going to the late game so far behind.
I've noticed you always seem to feel like you're behind, or at least on your streams you commentate like you've lost the game against Sky Toss. Of course, you do end up winning most of the time, but does it always feel like it's terrible and painful to fight this sort of army, or do you ever sort of get the hang of it? That isn't a loaded question at all.
That is quite the question there, but in general I do feel like I'm always losing when I play Zerg. It feels pretty hopeless, but since somehow I just kind of win eventually.
So you feel like you're always losing, but then you just kind of win.
Yeah, well, in general, I mean, like, I wouldn't struggle against an army like this myself too much. If I get, like, a decent army setup going on for myself. But, if it's, like, a very hard army to deal with, it is pretty hopeless. Hopeless sometimes. That's how it feels like. I like the two lurkers at your 5th base location.
He even brought, and I give him some credit, he even brought an observer with his zealots to kill some of them. It's just the lurkers were tucked in. The most dangerous Protoss are the ones that remember to bring stuff like that. Like, always having an observer, an oracle, or something. Which is, as a Protoss, quite difficult to keep track of when, like, there's mass corruptor and overseers as well, so. Yeah. Which is, of course, why Terrans will never build a Raven. Then you'd have to micro it and ghost. But yeah,
well,
like
you
looking
really
at the bank here,
the Raven too much. It's looking rough.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just problem is that you're not making any good units here.
What would the good units be?
Ultras would be fantastic here. Well, I think Ultras are a little bit hit or miss as well.
Ultras to kill the Templar and like the ground army.
Yeah, if you like 7 Ultras here, you will eat that army. For pretty much free actually, you won't lose like any units pretty much in that fight. Or then the other option is to go Crew Lords, but you kinda have to do one or the other. Lurkers also can work, but I think
how does it feel when that happens? That feedback set to you? But
it feels very bad when feedback land. That's why I'm glad feedback rapid fire was not included.
It would be rough if there was just a unit that could wipe out the energy of a bunch of other units in like an area almost instantly. Wouldn't that be tough?
That mineral cluster's mined out.
Yeah, that would be tough.
And at this point, it's pretty clear. But yeah, I think just not getting the army I needed after winning a fight, being late on the spire, and just never taking enough bases. 90 drones and 4 bases. You're not getting any value out of that. Like,
yeah, just 2 little bases is the main issue here, and then just the comp is also a little bit of an issue, but it was a rough game after the failed attack there for sure. Well, it's rough even before that, but you got in a pretty decent spot.
All right. Hope score. Grandmaster.
Hope score.
For Grandmaster. And I remind you that there are 200 ranks of Grandmaster. I give myself a 4.
A 4? That low?
Like, barely holding on there. Clearly just so slow. It's so, like, it's hard to look at your own games and not see all the mistakes immediately. Because you remember playing them, right? Like,
yeah. Oh, I don't think that's like a 4. That's like a... I'd give you like a 7.
Huh. All right. I'll take it. Thank you.
What my go-to point? 7 always.
Everyone, if they put some work in, they could improve. Honestly, most of the games today have kind of looked like that. Besides maybe that gold Zerg. That one was rough.
Yeah, but he was playing a very special build order, so it's always hard to play like these very special orders.
Build indeed. But at least good to know. On the right track, but a long way to go to round it out. And now we got one more. Serral versus Clem here. You may know some of these players. All right. Well, this is from the I Am Katowice. I found this to be one of the most interesting games, I guess, that you played. Well, we'll see if you agree, but I have some questions about your control scheme and stuff like that and how you handle, and then we'll talk about the Widow Mines and the Widow Mine changes, and actually, you know what, how about right now? What do you think about the upcoming Widow Mine changes, and do they affect you at all?
Well, I like them, especially the line. It's gonna be useful, somewhat useful. It's not gonna be like a game changer or anything, but it's gonna be nice to be able to micro. It's at least gonna make a difference when like people retarget the Widow Mines. Then you will see that where they're aiming a little bit. But I still feel like even with the AoE damage nerf, it's either you're gonna micro against it, it's not gonna kill anything, or then it hits and it's gonna kill everything like it used to. So I guess you're gonna lose a little bit less if you're a micro, but you're still gonna lose a big bunch. But they are pretty nice changes, I think.
Yeah, I think the visual is going to be great for spectating, because before it just kind of was, there's a Widow Mine, and then either a bunch of stuff exploded or not, like, because you can't really tell. But do you have, I guess, I'm going to go ahead and assume Clem makes some Widow Mines in this game, but how do you micro against them? Is there a trick that we're all missing, or is it a skill issue?
There's no trick. You just cross your fingers and hope that the Widow Mine doesn't hit for the most part. But I mean, usually you just move the... Well, the thing is that usually you just move the first unit, right? Well, the first bunch of units, because those are the ones the Widow Mines are targeting. Try to get them out of your army somehow. But if the Terran retargets the Widow Mine, then there's no micro to be done, because you can't really see where they are targeting. Then you just practically start splitting your stuff and hope that the Widow Mine doesn't hit too bad. But
so even your counter to it is split a bit and hope for the best, like.
Yeah, well, if they don't micro the Widow Mines, then you can usually micro, because like I said, it targets the first unit usually, so it's easy to separate the first bunch of units. Pretty easy. It's pretty comfortable. It's pretty comfortable.
You've just gotten used to it after like thousands of games, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But if they start microing the Widow Mine, that's when it gets very luck based. And then there's like not much you can do, to be honest.
Does Clem
especially
micro
with like he pretty often retargets the mines, and then it's just random.
Yeah. And I think we're gonna see plenty of that here, but I think so. I've noticed that your APM just overall is significantly lower than some other Zergs. Like you 450 to 500, which is not slow, obviously. But like Raynor and Solar and even Dark usually at like 600, sometimes more. Do you know
Yeah.
if there's a reason for that? Like a different in control schemes or something, or are you just that much more efficient?
I think I'm just efficient. I don't because the thing is that my EPM is still on the higher side. It's just that I have cut all the useless actions from my play. I mainly focus on the important actions.
So instead of doing things that don't help, you just only do things that do help. All right.
Yeah. Well, there's maybe something else to it as well. Maybe I'm not sure if I use the rapid fire bit less than others or something like that. But I do have them set. I do sometimes just click my units though. Like sometimes I just click like I don't keep the button pressed. I just click them manually or something like that. So maybe that has an impact as well. But for the most part, it's not just.
I thought I'd ask because it is a noticeable difference. Like 100 APM at your level is still like something worth pointing out. I think like Clem has almost 100 APM higher than even Maru sometimes. Which
he's
just
Clem is just. I think Clem's just faster than Maru though.
So that makes sense.
That makes sense.
But I think you kind of challenge the idea that Zerg necessarily has to be way faster. But in general...
Well, the thing with Zerg is that I think you would massively benefit if you had 10 hands, because there's infinite amount of things you could do with Zerg. Even imagine if your creep spread was perfect on every tumor, the map would be always fully on creep. But
10 imagine 10 hands microing Marines as well.
Sure, but I mean, yeah, I guess, I guess. But then it would be like a robotic gameplay. Though. That doesn't count. I feel like.
You've been accused of being a robot in the past. With how efficient your gameplay is. How do you respond to these accusations?
I don't think I have to respond to that anyhow.
He's not programmed to do so. All right. I'm actually. I want to go back. I know we've been talking more meta, but you decided this game to go for the Ling counter. Is there a reason why? Like, because rarely do you go for these big Ling kind of counterattacks, like waiting for them to move out. Why did you choose to do it this game?
Well, I don't exactly remember anymore. It either was my plan initially, or then I did it because my hatch got blocked. My third hatch got blocked. But I would imagine I had this as a plan already before going to the game to do a Link counter attack after 2 or 4 Hellions, I believe. Yeah, I don't remember exactly. It could have been after I just got blocked, and then I was like, I'll do this strategy this time because I have more larva than usual. Because usually if you get blocked, you go for more injects than tumors earlier. So
you have mapped out like what you're gonna do with the energy on your first like 4 queens, right?
Yeah.
Or at least a good idea of what you want to do.
Yeah. Well, I think everyone has a pretty good idea of what to do with the first few queens, and then people most likely have a couple of variations as well of how to.
Do you like inject or is it always creep tumor first, or is there a situation you go inject on the first queen at the natural?
Well, this game I went double inject, right? But that was only because I got blocked. Usually if you get your third base at 28 or 30 supply, then you would always pretty much inject first. Tumor first, I mean. But if you don't get the base at 28 or 30 supply, then you usually double inject always, just because you have excess money in that case.
So, okay, accident. Do you use default hotkeys for most stuff?
Pretty much. I think my hotkey setup's pretty standard. I actually used to play with almost fully standard hotkey setups, but I have started moving stuff like patrol from P to N, for example. I used to play with patrol on P for the longest times, but
With what?
that wasn't the patrol.
Oh, patrol.
Yeah, I used to have it on P,
Yeah.
but I changed it to N
Is
a
that
couple of years
easier?
back. N? It's
Yeah.
very easy. That's where your thumb is.
What? I changed it to Q because I can't handle anything on the right side of the keyboard. But that's
But
where
your
your thumb is.
at this.
Yeah, I guess it
that's
makes sense. Wow.
Isn't your thumb at the space bar?
This is why you think 10 hands would help when I'm like, I can't even use one hand. I don't know, right? I guess, yeah, the thumb pretty much just uses the spacebar, which I use for base camera stuff, but...
Yeah, the thumb has pretty good reach on the... From V to M. From V to M, those 4 hotkeys, the thumb is very flexible on those ones.
So at this stage, you know he's gonna do the, Well, what are you thinking at this stage, pretty much? It doesn't have to be this game specifically, just generally.
Well, I'm at this point... Well, in this game, specifically, First off, I'm pretty disappointed because I killed 10 SCVs, but my macro was so poor this game, I'm less far. I'm not even really ahead, even though the game should be technically over with how much damage I did. So I'm not too happy, but I'm just... the plan is just to slowly get drones up. Usually I would already have my 4th base pretty much saturated, but like I said, it's not the best start, so I had to. I guess I felt the need to stay in a bit lower drone count, but usually always in CVT you kind of want to go 4 bases on full mineral saturation as soon as possible. And then just make a lot of units and kind of get the control of the game. And after you get the control, you just start taking up to the later game units such as, well, Hive or Hydra or whatever.
So, Banelings. How do you usually control Banelings in the fight? Because ideally, obviously, you move command as far as possible to absorb the hits. Is it usually control clicking or hotkeys? What's the thought process most of the time?
Usually just control click in this matchup. Against pros, I have them in a separate hotkey, but in this matchup, I usually just control click them and move forward. And sometimes it's smarter to just explode them yourself, so attack move in that case, but usually just control click them and move command forward.
So what's on your 0 key here? Or you said, I believe, use a thumb mouse button for that?
No, that's W.
That's W. Because whenever players have something on like the 0 key, I'm like, there's no way. You have the biggest hands or extra on the keyboard in order to be using 0. Like, it's not Brood War anymore. So that's kind of your just bring your queens key. So.
That's my creep queens. And then at 5 I have all my injecting queens.
And your Evo
Well, there's
chambers
actually
on a
some
separate key?
overlap there. Now actually overlap them, and I have 5 at 11 queens at 5 actually. I just combined them.
Do you use steel keys very often?
Yeah, I use the steel keys. I think I have only the create a control group and steel units set, though I don't have the add unit to control group and steal the units. That one I don't have, but when I create control groups, I quite often use the steal command in that.
You holding
case.
Alt while you do it? Is that the process, or?
Well, I think so. Isn't that the
Did you
standard?
change?
I'm
Yeah,
not
that is
really
the
sure.
standard.
I
I'm
haven't
wondering.
thought about it.
I tried changing it to like default with steel keys, but I found that a bit imprecise. Like,
so
whenever
you would,
you created a new
when it-
group, it would always be a steal. So then you would
Yeah,
never
some people
overlap.
have thought about that, but no, I didn't really see a need to do that myself ever. But I have thought about it for sure.
It makes it hard, like, if you want to, you put, like, spellcast in one control group, then you can't have them with the main army as easily and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe with my hotkey setup it would be I mean, it'd be very much usable, but I'm not just that. I don't think it would be any better that way.
So okay. I want to go back. You just injected there. Explain to me how you injected those bases that quickly. Explain to the class what just happened. I'm gonna slow it down.
I'm watching this more from the I'm watching both players here, so I'm not really watching my own person here. I injected there or what?
Just you're at the same time, right? 11, 15,
yeah, we are
20.
on the replay. We are on the same replay,
Yes,
so we are
yes.
at the same time, yeah.
Right there. You just injected. It looked like every base in the span of 1 second. Is that base camera, or are you just that quick on the select all or camera locations, or?
It's just camera hotkeys. That's the. I don't think anyone uses the base camera in, at least in non. Well, I don't think the Koreans use it either, but that's just the camera hotkeys. I selected all my queens, and camera hotkey injected all the bases.
Are you holding like the inject key in the center of the screen, or you just clicking each time?
I don't think I'm holding the button, but yeah, I just click the center of the screen always.
Just very fast. Wow. That's the kind of stuff that.
Well, I guess you would always. I mean, it's hard to say what I do, but
It's hard to say. Like again.
I guess you have it. You do have you have you have the pressed, right? But
Yeah.
and then you just click. Every time you click a camera hotkey, you click the middle of your screen, and there's a hatchery there. So. I mean, I don't know.
All you do is
pretty
simply
easy.
inject very quickly.
Yeah,
So
it's
pretty
not
much the same thing most people do, just in order of magnitude quicker. All right.
Yeah, I guess so.
I guess you've done it a few million times at this point, so.
Yeah, I have used the same inject method for at
decade.
least like, yeah, probably close to that already at this point. So I'm
How
pretty
do you
good
decide?
at it.
So now you got the Vipers out. How do you decide Parasitic Bomb, Blinding Cloud? I mean, rarely is Blinding Cloud the choice, right? But
Yeah, against this kind of comp, it's usually just spamming the Paradigm bombs, especially since Terran doesn't usually have time or interest to go repair their medivacs, so eventually there's a good chance you start killing all their medivacs.
I like how you
But,
said interest, because so often Terrans just don't repair their medivacs.
Yeah. But against tanks, you would usually go for the blinding clouds. But besides that, it's usually just fire bombs are better option.
So
Even against tanks, sometimes, like if you have an option to do a parabomb, or the other option is to blinding cloud like one tank, quite often better choice to just go for the parabomb.
So this sort of situation where you're jammed in, I mean, it feels like that was handled about as well as it could be. I don't really have any commentary on that, but what are you thinking there? Like, how do you decide it's time to kill the planetary versus backing off?
If you have enough bailings, you kill the planetary. If you don't have enough bailings,
Yeah,
you don't.
I kind of saw
It's
that
all
one coming.
about-
All right, like, it's like,
The thing is that, well, killing planetary is always a little bit risky because it can go wrong, but it's pretty much always worth it to kill a planetary if you can do it with bailings. Just because there's a good chance you kill a lot of SCVs while killing the planetary, and then also just well, maybe not if there's like a fresh CC right next to it, but if that's not the case, then it's usually always worth it to blow it up, because there's even a good chance that the next CC that's gonna be there is like an orbital commander or something, and then that's like a massive weakness in Terran's defense, and you can just link flood that base or something. So just if you have enough bailings, you usually kill the base.
so in order to creep spread, are you just moving on the minimap most of the time?
I guess so, yeah.
Those are the kind of moments that I'm like, wow. You look back at your base while you're rolling in for what could be the game-winning fight. Like, I think you should maybe queued up like ultra speed or something behind.
I'm probably put my Vipers back recharging there, I would imagine.
Yeah, the efficiency. So another thing is, I think I cast Clem versus Solar, and then you versus Clem. Solar lost something like 18 Overseers in one game. Is there, like, I think I know how this is going to end up, but do you have any tips? How many Overseers have you lost? I don't actually have that UI up, but you almost never lose Overseers for free. You lose like 3 or 4. But any tricks to that, or is it like just micro, bro?
Yeah, well, for the most part, you just don't want to go too far forward, I guess, but I mean, it's, to be honest, like, against most Terrans, you don't really lose Overseers too much, but Clem's very good at target firing the Overseers and then cloaking afterwards or something like that. So you have to be a little bit extra careful, but I guess it's just important to be able to see if the Terran can stand and fire the Overseers down for a moment, or if the banelings are close enough that they actually can't afford to shoot at the Overseers. But there's not really much there you can do. It's just, I guess the easiest thing is just to keep them back. One idea you can do is click the Overseers to follow your Hydras or something, and then they're always pretty far back, but always included in the fights as well.
Is that usually what you're doing?
Nah.
It seems like you just select them and move them in the fight. It's just you're managing all the different parts of it maybe a little more quickly than some others. And a few others.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, at this point, it's already a pretty rough situation for him, to be honest.
Okay, you've got Burrow on the way, the Greater Spire. It feels like this is just you checking off the rest of the tech, just in case, like, making sure you have
What
it.
am I making?
You got a Greater Spire, you just finished Burrow and Neural Parasite, so...
Oh. Yeah, when there's money, no,
you
why
do
not, I
have
guess.
the entire side of the map, so...
Yeah, it's pretty bad play to not expand on his bases here, to be honest.
It's pretty bad. You could improve on that. What, the top left or the northern base? Like...
Well, yeah, the base I have the Nidus on the 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock, or then the 4 o'clock base I should have taken earlier for sure.
Now we've reached the Infestor phase, which is more relevant when the game's closer, right? Like, if you need to be more efficient, but it's kind of just a game winner here.
Well, it's always relevant with Terran units. Terran units can do the micro or stuff infinitely if you don't stop them. You always have to either fungal the Terran units or get a surround on them, otherwise they just get free trades forever.
Yeah, I've noticed you always wait until like the ghosts and stuff are engaged and then pop up. I guess the Infestor nerf will affect that a little. Like, it'll be a little bit easier to maybe snipe off the Infestor before, but you're still gonna need to know it's there.
Yeah, it's hard to say how much it will change, but... Well, it will obviously change, but... Hard to say how if you can still do the road infestor thingy, or if that's completely removed. I don't really think it's gonna be completely removed, but it's gonna make it a little bit weaker. You maybe have to be a little bit more far away from the Terran units. You can't pop up like in their range, and then just fungal. You kind of have to be out of range at least every time you pop up.
Yeah. Well, that was an impressive game to cast and watch, but also it's essentially everything happening. It had a little bit of everything. I guess we didn't get the like Ultralists and Broodlords because you already got so ahead in the like mid-game phase. You had so much map control, like smashing the planetaries and all that. But
yeah, you only realistically would switch here if the Liberator count would get high. Then you would maybe go Ultra and Raptor. But obviously this game he didn't really have any lips ever, so staying on this primal composition works fantastically.
Yeah, again, it's another. I think I'm quoting you when you said, "I don't know, I don't you do anything special. It's pretty standard business," which is a bit, I will say, condescending when you're kind of the CEO of that business at the moment. Like, as everyone's trying to emulate your style, which I do just thank you again, Serral, for spending this time with us and bestowing your wisdom, even if it's like just micro. But
Yeah, well, for the most part, it's usually not that complicated. It's StarCraft for the big parties, mechanics mainly, right? That is kind of big part of the game. Maybe
so
out of that stuff comes very natural for me at this point after this many years.
but did you have a pro? Like, did you have a favorite pro before you were like in WCS or like playing at top tier tournaments? Did you have a favorite pro like in Wings of Liberty that you watched?
Probably like Chadong was the first one, probably in StarCraft 2. I remember watching some of the yellow stuff when he was a random player very early on. Chadong was probably like the first Zerg player, and then I watched Sue during like 2017, and that time I remember he was streaming a lot. 2016, 2017. I kind of watched a lot of his matches, but...
And I think kind of tangential, not exactly the same, but what do you think of Dark and the way he plays Zerg, which is a distinctly different style?
Yeah, well, Dark's a bit crazy. I will never really play exactly like he does, but I think he has a lot of good ideas. You can kind of take and maybe do some small adjustments and make them your own. But for the most part, I wouldn't exactly want to play exactly like Dark does. He's a bit too much on the crazy side. Usually, you don't always play like that, but sometimes at least.
And then if you had a unit you could remove from the game permanently, what would it be? Any race.
Probably between well, I guess War Prism.
War
Just get rid of
Prism?
War Prism. Yeah.
Strong but interesting choice. That would help out a lot against Protoss, which, as you know, everyone's struggling.
I'm struggling as well.
And when you compare the players, of today against people you played before they retired, who stands out? I guess, is there any player who's not playing currently that you struggled against in the past that has now since retired or isn't playing as much?
Well, I don't know. That's a weird question, hard question, I guess.
I guess
there's
examples would be like
there's a lot
Zest.
of people I used to struggle against,
Not so much.
but after I got good, I didn't really have so many of those people who I struggled against. But I guess like if I'm thinking like since like 2018 or 17, people who I used to struggle against who don't play right now, maybe like a Rogue or someone. But I still had a winning record against him, so yeah, I didn't struggle, but he was very hard to beat, for sure. But then if I think like more historically, for Vortex always used to destroy me pretty much. But obviously I wasn't that good when I played against him always, but I always remember that I thought he was a very strong player.
That's interesting. All right, I got one last question. If you could go like to my camera here, but so you know how there are like for IM and stuff, you have like the portraits for the thumbnails and the promotional material. I've always wondered, what was the thought process on this particular IM Katowice portrait here?
I don't know.
What
They
emotion
tell
are you
me-
trying to convey to
I'm
the
not
audience?
trying to do anything there. I'm just doing what they tell me to do, for the most part.
And so they said, give us a flex, Serral.
I don't remember what they tell. Maybe they even showed me what to do, but that's what we ended up with.
I always enjoyed that particular stance. Really just peak Zerg performance right there. All right, so we can blame
That is
IEM on
truly
that one.
peak. Yeah, you can blame IEM for that, or ESL or whatever. Their fault, not mine.
Well, oh yeah, and then the last thing is you have your Finnish military service is coming up, I believe this April. So
Yeah.
I guess how long do you expect to be, or do you expect to be not playing in any tournaments during that, or what can people expect from you? I know a lot of people aren't really sure exactly what that means.
Well, the thing is that I don't really know myself what it means exactly, but I will be playing. I'll try to go to Dallas and then naturally the Saudi tournament, the World Championships, but besides
So it's not
that,
ruled out at the moment.
No, it's very likely I'll go. It's extremely likely I'll go there actually, but it's just not 100%. I can't really promise I'm gonna be going anywhere, but it's extremely likely I get to go in those events. Naturally, my practice time won't be as great as it is now.
You think Maru has a chance this time?
Nah, it's always a chance. Always has been.
All right. Well, on that, thank you, Serral, very much for spending a pretty ridiculous amount of time going through bronze all the way up to the very top. Is there anything else that you'd like to shout out or promote, or one of those things before we go?
I don't really do last words usually, but give a shout out to Basilisk as always. Oops, from the wrong side. There we go. And that's all I do this time. I guess thanks to the fans as well. It's a standard.
Thank you very much, Serral. And thank you guys for watching this special episode of, well, not particularly Angry Coach, but something a little bit different. And hopefully, if it didn't give you motivation to play more games, at least it gave you a little more insight into how complicated or not complicated the game is at the end of the day. So thank you for watching. Good luck, have fun. Stay tuned.